Have you ever heard the story of the two lost sons? There was a man who had two sons, and the younger of them said to his father, "Father, give me the share of property that's coming to me." And he divided his property between them. Not many days later, the younger son gathered all he had and took a journey into a far country, and there he squandered his property in reckless living. This is a story that was told by Jesus and is often referred to as the story of the prodigal son, because of the wasteful and reckless behavior of this youngest son. And I would encourage you to read this story for yourself in Luke chapter 15. But have you ever wondered what motivated this younger son to act like he did? There's probably many ways this could be answered, but the simplest way for me to justify his behavior is that presumably this young man felt like his father was depriving him of a good life. He probably grew discontent with what he had and figured that his father was denying him the pleasure of living life to the fullest. But the freedom and fun that he enjoyed were short-lived. After squandering his entire inheritance, a famine struck the land, and for probably the first time in his life, he experienced genuine hunger. He found a job feeding pigs and would have gladly eaten their food if only it would have been given to him. Finally, after becoming threadbare and hungry, he began to view his father-in-law differently. He realized that back at his father's farm, even the servants were fed well and treated with dignity. But knowing the righteous life of his father and considering how he himself blew it, he did not presume that he could ever regain his standing as a son of the householder. Instead, he resolved to return and offer himself as a servant. And even though he was gaining a more sanctified view of his father, he still never expected the welcome that he received. His father was so excited to see his son come back, he spontaneously threw a big party. His father's heart was much bigger and more generous and loving and forgiving than the son had ever known in his entire life. Of course, this whole celebration was unscheduled, and meanwhile the older son was out working in the field. And while returning to the house, he overheard the music and dancing, and by asking one of the servants, he found out what was going on. When he heard that his rebellious brother was being received with such pomp, his own heart became resentful. He refused to enter the house. And so the father, who earlier that day ran to embrace his younger son, now willingly leaves the festivity also to invite his firstborn son into the embrace of his love. But the older son's response was, "Look, these many years I have served you, and I never disobeyed your command. Yet you never gave me a young goat that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fattened calf for him." Isn't it strange? The older son apparently also felt that his father was depriving him of a good life. Maybe he was not so different from his prodigal brother as he thought. No, he didn't have the audacity to leave his father's house, but his heart had drifted away from his father's heart. No, he did not loosen his morals to live licentiously, but his self-righteousness and along with self-pity and bitterness exposed his own kind of sin. No, he wasn't going to waste his money, but he was inadvertently wasting the joy and love of his father's house. No, he was not suffering under an uncaring slave master, but his response reveals that he felt like he was an oppressed slave. The younger son was lost and returned to be a servant, only to find redemption and restored sonship in the arms of his father. Yet the older son was also lost, even while living at home. You see, when we entertain an unsanctified image of God, I believe we would naturally take the trajectory of one of these sons. As the older son We may live an obedient, dutiful, hard-working, and law-abiding life, but meanwhile we become judgmental, angry, resentful, and jealous, unwilling to identify with the shipwrecked lives around us, and unable to identify with the joy and redeeming love of our Father. Or, as the younger son, we may throw away our inheritance. Our Father's standard is high and hard. We don't understand why he requires what he does, and there's no use trying to live up to morals which to us seem burdensome and unnecessary, and so we throw it out in exchange for a life of lawlessness. I want you to imagine with me, how would the story have played out if both sons realized the goodness of their father? Imagine how your life and my life would play out if we would abandon our evil views of God and reimagine him as the good Father in this story. Let us receive the embrace of our Father's love, and let us allow his love to transform our character. Then we will be able to say, we love him because he first loved us. God bless you.